Today, it's all about litter. Okay, let's start from the very beginning, which you already know because you spend most of your time in and on litter. But what is chicken litter? It's funny, I'll be talking to people out there in the non-poultry industry, and they think litter means chicken manure. But you and I both know it's more than just that. It is the bedding we've got in there, it's the feathers that were left over, it's the manure, it's the dirt, it's composted. But all of these things are what make up litter. But it also creates a very difficult situation on growing animals on this. You're growing them on their own manure, basically. But that's what litter is, as you already know. Now, here is the science, roughly, and I'm not gonna get too detailed because you all know from watching these videos, I'm not a scientist. But what's happening here, the science behind this breakdown is basically we are composting in the house. I mean, unfortunately, we can't just clean it out as they poop every day. So we've got to do this composting. Now, if you want to totally understand that, then the real thing is the science behind composting. And what it takes to compost is carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. Now, to properly compost, the carbon to nitrogen ratio needs to be about 25 to 1, 28 to 1. Well, you're never going to get that much carbon with, to out 25 to 1 nitrogen. There's too much nitrogen on this floor. You'll never get caught up to that. That's one of the reasons why you put bedding down, is to provide a carbon source. But one of the things we also forget about is that it takes some oxygen, and that's part of the problem in these houses. It's hard to get oxygen down in there. Like we say, this is a major problem, but in recent times, since antibiotic-free environment has come about, it's even a bigger problem because we are raising birds in a Petri dish. It is a warm, moist environment that just encourages bacterial growth. So what's the problem with that? It's funny, I'll get phone calls for two main reasons. Number one, people trying to deal with ammonia in the house. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But the second one is a lot of times is mortality. And now within this new antibiotic-free environment, two things that people will tell me along these lines, talking about dealing with issues. They'll either say, hey, my mortality is very high. I got dermatitis, I got necrotic enteritis, I got, E. coli, all these things going on. That's understandable. We don't have antibiotics. The consumer has driven this absurdity, but that's another video. But anyway, so the other thing I get is my mortality is okay, but my performance is terrible. And here's generally why that is. The problems are still here. The problems that are still causing people to have bad mortality are still in your house because they're putting bad bacteria on the floor. And what happens is, if you don't have high mortality, your birds are getting through it. They are surviving, but they're not thriving. Because what happens is all that feed that they're taking in, see the feed right there? That feed is going toward building the immune system and fighting the obstacle rather than going toward weight. And that's what it's all about, turning feed into weight. But your performance is bad because you've got bad bacteria in the house that's challenging the birds. So it's just like whenever you and I get sick, we take some vitamin C. It doesn't mean like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to run a marathon. No, it means like, I'm actually feeling a little bit better. I'm not coughing or sneezing. That's not what we want. We want the birds to thrive, not to just get through it and have better mortality. Now, with all those issues we've just talked about so far, let me give a little plug for Litter Life. There's a lot of litter amendments out there, and they do different things. pH, you got disinfectants, blah, blah, blah. So let me tell you one thing about Litter Life, because I want to shamelessly plug this here at this point, is because what our focus on with Litter Life is dealing with these issues. So, like I've said before, you can come in here and put a pH low, put some acid in here. You can come in here and disinfect the whole place. But I'm telling you, man, you're only going to affect the top 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch crust. In a house like this, Bad bacteria, like Clostridium, which is one of the most dominant bad bacteria in the house, is going to go down into the dirt. You ever hear someone get dermatitis and they say, you're not going to get it out of your house? That's because I don't care if you go in there and burn the ground. You're not going to get down 4 or 5 inches deep where that bad bacteria is hanging out. But Litter Life is going to send 14 strains of beneficial bacteria, one of which is Bacillus subtilis, that does an incredible job against Clostridium, but it's going to send that good bacteria down into the dirt to deal with those issues. Now, if you're like any other grower, you want to maximize your products, and we can deal with ammonia too, but the concept in the poultry industry right now, and has been for years, is just dealing with ammonia. I love this. Just dealing with ammonia for brooding. And I get it. It's because the ammonia is heavy down there, it's going to blind chicks. But if you ever walked through a house in the summer and had high ammonia and you're wondering why your birds got respiratory issues, so ammonia, you may deal with it for the first 7 days, 10 days. And why is that? Because acids will lower the pH until the first bird poops on the floor. And guess what? Now all your ammonia is going to start coming back because you're not caught up with the nitrogen to carbon ratio. So one thing Litter Life does is we are gassing off the ammonia. We are adding carbon. So you got your bedding in here, but we're also, Litter Life is highly activated carbon that once you put it in, it immediately is ready for that relationship with nitrogen. So we're basically composting in the house. So we are trying to get that ammonia out. One of the first things people, they put down Litter Life and they go, oh my gosh, man, my ammonia went sky high within the first 24 hours. That's what we do. All the other things you want to put on, it puts a cap on it till it kicks the can down the road. Litter Life, we're gassing that. After that first 24 hours, parts per million starts coming down. So that what happens is, as it deals with ammonia, we are trying to get the ammonia out so that by the end of the grout, you have less ammonia going into the next flock. So when you subsequently use Litter Life again, now you're starting to get ahead with that carbon and nitrogen ratio. The other issue that we talked about is oxygenating the floor. No one wants to talk about this one. So we talk about oxygen in the litter because oxygen is part of that carbon and nitrogen ratio. But here's what nobody really likes to talk about. How do you aerate? That's one of the reasons why they windrow. But there is an acid in Litter Life called fulvic acid. Every atom of that acid is highly oxygenated. So what it does is it's putting oxygen in the floor. That's why the number one comment, for whatever reason people call and ask about Litter Life, the number one comment, observation they make is, man, it sure keeps a dry floor. And everywhere I go and hear these professors talk about litter management, they talk about keeping dry floors. That's Litter Life's main thing that it is great at, is drying the floor, because we're putting oxygen in the floor. I had a professor tell me one time, he said, well, I'm not too sure. We've seen that, aerobic bacteria, because that's what a lot of our bacteria is, aerobic bacteria can have some adverse effects in the house. I just read that same professor about a year ago write an article about what we're finding now is how aerobic bacteria can enhance the health of your floor. Okay, well, whatever, but anyway, aerobic bacteria. So getting oxygen in and then finding bacteria that thrives off good oxygen. Now, that should tell you right there why it's important to have a healthy floor. Because you know as well as I do, when this feed gets out on the ground, these birds are pecking around. What are they pecking? What are they getting up? Bad bacteria. So you need to have good bacteria down there that can actually help them. Now you will have a hard time getting up to the levels of bad bacteria. It's just the way nature is. Bad bacteria is the most dominant. But if you can keep feeding and keep populating that good bacteria, then you got a chance at keeping a good, healthy floor so you can have a good, healthy gut. So that's all about litter today. Well, not really. There's probably tons more things you can talk about. But those are some main things to think about when you think about your floor. So hope that helps. That was a long one. Hope you hung with me. But if you have any questions on this, you can check out our website. You can check out our material. But give me a call, 1-800-608-3755, or Alan at southlandorganics.com. Until then, take care of that litter.